So in yesterday's class, so what we have discussed, what is a constructor? Yeah, a simple definition. Constructor is it's a block of code which is like a method. What is the purpose of it? Which is used to initialize the objects. Which is used to initialize the objects. So this is the simplest definition. Yeah. Then what are some constructor properties? The properties of constructor. First one, constructor name. What's the name of constructor? Constructor name should be same as what? Same as class name. So for which class constructor we are creating, that class name only we have to use as a constructor name also. First property. Second property, constructor can have return type. Constructor cannot have a return type. Can't have a return type. Then a class can have how many constructors? A class can have n number of constructors. But what is the condition? N number of constructors. But what is the condition? With a different signature. So what is the meaning of this different signature? The meaning of different signature, we discussed the different number of parameters, different number of parameters or different type of parameters or different order of parameters. Correct or not? So all these things we discussed in yesterday's class. Yeah. Then we have discussed each and every property with its syntax also. Correct. So then followed by, we have some cross questions also. What will happen if we have a constructor return type for constructor? Is it syntactically accepted or do we get any compilation error? We'll get compilation error? Yes or no? Yeah. What will happen if we give return type to a constructor? What is the answer? But everybody is saying we'll get compilation error. There is no compilation error. Even we have discussed through Eclipse also. Correct? Then, but constructor will become method if we have a return type to constructor. Then there is an internal question. Can a method name be same as a class name? Yes. Because constructor is becoming a method, then method name is same as a class name. In that scenario, it is possible, but it's strictly not recommended because constructor name is clearly allocated for, sorry, class name is clearly allocated for constructor names, not for a method names. So this is what we have discussed in our yesterday's class. Correct? Then finally, we end up the session with when to go for designing a constructor. When like student 1, student 2, and like this some 10 students, where every student data is name and mobile number, name and mobile number. So in such scenario, for multiple objects, the data to be initialized is same. Then only we have to go for designing a constructor. Otherwise, for every simple requirement, we can't go for a constructor. It's unnecessary. Yeah. So that's why. So when to go for a constructor? When multiple objects with similar data, then we have to go for the constructor. So for the same example, I'll continue. Before that, do you have any questions? Before I proceed with today's session, do you have any questions? Online, any questions? You can type in the chat. Here, any questions you can ask. No? Sure. Yeah. So then, so we write a constructor for some requirement, how to design a constructor. So if you remember the definition very clearly, so for any class, in a class, say public class, the class name is student. For the student class, we have to initialize some variables. So what is that? Student name. Student name. St name, I'll take one variable. Then followed by student mobile or some mobile. So this is what we have to initialize. Then name is which type? String type. Then mobile is which type? Long type. L small and here S capital. And this is what only declaration and it is not initialization. And also we discussed one more point. These are what type of variables? These are instance variables. Instance variables. Correct? Then to initialize them, which concept we have to use? Constructor is a concept. So what is the class name? Student. Then what's the constructor? Access modifier, public. Then space. Constructor name is the same as class name, student. How many variables to be initialized? Two variables. What is the type? First one, string. Then n for name. Then second one, long, m for mobile. Then the constructor body. What's the purpose of constructor? Constructor parameter variable we have to assign to the instance variable called the name. Both are string type, so we can assign. Then m is which type? Long type. Then mobile is also long type only. Okay. So let me take out this STST. One variable name, one variable mobile. So therefore, we are assigning n to name and mobile to, sorry, m to mobile. So we have to read from right to left. Whenever there is equal to symbol, read from right to left, not left to right. So this is the constructor, that's all. Yeah. Now, by using this constructor, how do we initialize the values? And also how do we print those values? So that's our next concept. So for this, for a JVM to execute, we should have a class with main method, correct? So here, then there is a public class, the class name, test. Inside this test class, main method public static void main, and then followed by body. And inside this one, I want to store first student name and first student mobile number. What are we supposed to do? To assign the values for this name and variable, we have to create the object for a class. So how to create the object? Class name, student, then space, object name, S1 is my first student, then equals new student, then followed by open and close parenthesis, semicolon. Is it correct? This so normally we create the object, right? So now my question is it correct? No, because in this class student, what is a constructor? Public student is a constructor. Is it taking some parameters or no parameters? It is taking two parameters, right? One is string, one is long in the order of first string, then second long. But are we giving any parameters here? Are we using any values to those parameters? No, we are not giving. So therefore, this immediately will give a compile time error saying that there is no such type of constructor which is no arguments constructor. There is no such type of constructor. That's the error we are going to get. Then how do we correct it? So we have to give some value to this n variable and some value to this m variable in the order of first string one, second is long one. Then here my first student name, say RAM. Since it's a string value, double quotes. Second one is what? Mobile number. I'll write some mobile number. Now no space, but it has to end with L. So it means whenever JVM execute this line of code, now this value ROM will be assigned to this variable name. And this value mobile number will be assigned to this mobile, which is this mobile will be initialized. So like this, we can assign every. So this is whenever it is required only, we are creating the object. And whenever we create the object, constructor is an implicit call. Yeah. So that is where, so unnecessary memory consumption is not there. Because whenever we want, we can create the object and give the data. Otherwise, just leave it. Yeah. So this is the first student object. Then how do you print it? Very first class and object. Same concept only, but with constructor. No difference. So to access the object members, we have to use S1 or not? S1 dot, which variable you have to use? In this class student, which variables are accessible? name and mobile, right? S1 dot name will give what is the value that we passed here. Okay. Then similarly, how to print mobile? S1 dot mobile. So these two lines of code, if you write in print syntax, system dot out dot println S1 dot name, then followed by system dot out dot println, so S1 dot mobile. So we'll get the value that were assigned through constructor, not directly. Are we giving directly values? No, but we are assigning the values or initializing the values through constructor, and those values we are accessing back for printing. Yeah, getting me? Not getting? Yeah. So where is your doubt? What is your doubt? No doubts. Okay. So here, a class where student class is there, there will be some hundreds of students. Do we store the data directly? No, it's unnecessary memory consumption because we may not use the data again every time, but we are storing unnecessary memory consumption. Then what is the process to initialize? Directly initialization is not correct approach. Therefore, there is a constructor. For constructor to initialize, first we have to have instance variables. That's why only data type and variable name, data type and variable name. This is called as only declaration. So here we are only declaring, not assigning. Then how do we assign? So through constructor we have to assign. So that is the purpose of a constructor. So constructor name, and since we have to assign to string and long, so string and long, and this constructor variable name value to be assigned to instance variable name. Constructor variable name has to be assigned to instance variable name. If you write reverse, syntactically no problem, but otherwise we don't get it. I'll show you while executing through Eclipse also. So this is a story of a constructor. Now how to assign the values to the constructor? Create the object. When we create the object, so this is having again internally two more lines. New student is object for student class. Then student of Ram comma so and so number is a constructor call. It's an implicit call. JVM will read this right hand side again in two different parts. So one is new student, object for a student class. Then student of values, then initialize those values. That's the purpose of this right hand side line. Okay, we'll go for that memory diagram. So if you feel comfortable here. Then, so to access, so object reference dot sub variable name, object reference dot sub variable name. We don't this in the class concept only, class and object concept. Yeah. So now, how do we initialize the values for second student? I want to assign the second values. Yeah. Some Lakshman and so number. Please tell me the syntax. What should we do? Second student values I have to assign. What we supposed to do? So for first student, what we did? What did we do? We have created one object, and through object constructor call, we have passed the values. Then for second student, what to do? Same thing, create one more object. So for the same class, how many objects are possible to create? For one class, how many objects we can create? Any number. Therefore, for my second student, again I'll go for class name, a different object name, S2, then new student of what's the value? First string value, say Lakshmi, go for Lakshman, then comma, one more mobile number, then L at the last, then end of this line. Then how to print this? Yeah, so I'm sorry. Then how to print this one? So same thing, system dot out dot println, s2 dot name, and also s2 dot system dot out dot println. So print s2 dot name, and then so print of s2 dot mobile. That's it. Now second object data we can get as an output here. So like this, if you want to assign 100 students data, so whenever it is required, then only create the object and give the data. That's it. So no need of storing all 100 data at the same time, initial only, before only. Correct? So that's the purpose of a constructor. Understood? Yeah. Any questions? No? So we'll go for the execution of the same thing through Eclipse as well. So for this, I'm going back to Eclipse, and this is my Yeah, so if you just remember, Java Oops is our project name. So I expand that project. And in our package, we have one class called as constructor demo. Then in the same package, I am creating one more new class. So I'll take this class name as some test class. For execution, I'm using main method. For execution, I'm using a main method. Yeah. Then inside this project, what's one more class to have? Student class also. So I'll right click and go to new, and then I'll take a class. So then there is a class name. Student data I want to store, therefore student class name, and no main method for this. So inside this one, what is the first thing to do? In declare instance variables. What are instance variables? One is string name. What's another one? Long mobile. So like this, how many values that you want to store for a student? For example, whenever any student comes for his registration, what will store? We'll take a student name and we'll take a student number. We'll take student course, which course they are interested to join. So if I take the visible campus example, right? Then let me also take one more thing. So what is that? String course. Yeah. Then these are the three values for every student object. I have to store the data. Then how to store this data? How to initialize the values? So initialize instance variables. Instance variables through what? Through constructor. So then, so what is the syntax for that? Take a constructor first. So access modifier, public, then constructor name, same as the class name, student only with S capital. The next, how many values to be initialized? Three values, right? String, long string. Yeah, we can take any order, or first we have to go for name, then only mobile, then only course. Can I take course first? Yes or no? Any order is fine. But whenever we are creating object, there we have to pass the values correctly. So in handwritten example, if you see what is the first parameter? String. Then can I pass mobile number first? So here can I write mobile number first? No, then that is wrong. So here I can take mobile number first or string second. But here we have to make sure that this order is followed. That's it. So here also same thing is applicable. So you can take anything. So first I'm taking string n for name, then long I'm taking m for mobile, then again string I'm taking c for course, then followed by constructor body. What's the purpose of constructor? Initialize them. Initialize instance variables through constructor parameters. That is nmc has to be initialized to name, mobile, and course. So therefore, the first n value to be assigned to name variable. The next m mobile value to be assigned to mobile instance variable. So then followed by c course value to be assigned to course instance variable. This is the purpose of a constructor. That's it. Yeah. So now, so we have one string name, long m, and string c. So after writing this constructor code, now for JVM to execute, we have to create object inside a main method only, because JVM will execute from open and close curly brace of main methods. So therefore, so what is the class name? Student, then space, first student name S1, then new student, then parenthesis semicolon. Is it accepting? No. What's the reason for error? Because do we have any constructor with no parameters in student class? Do we have any constructor with no parameters? No, we have only one constructor. It is taking three parameters. But here if we are writing without any parameters, that's the reason we are getting a compilation error. Then what? How to correct this one? We have to pass the values accordingly. First one is name. Yes or no? First one is name, that's why in double quotes. Then what's the name that I would like to give? Some name I'll give. Okay, I'll give my name only. The next, second one is what? Mobile number, which is long type. Therefore, I am giving my number, but it has to end with L. That's a long way rule. Then what's third one? Course. So I'll take my course as Java. So this is the process to create the object. Object creation itself is an implicit constructor call, and these values will be assigned to instance variables of the student class. Yeah. Now how to access them? Print statement system.out.println s1 dot name is a first attribute. Then first variable, instance variable, then s1 dot mobile. Then again print of s1 dot course. That's it. So now we can save it, and also we can, how do you dynamically pass for three different variables values? How do you pass? So control S, save, I right click, then go to run as, I'll click on Java application. So you can see the values which you are passing for object creation, then those values are initialized to constructor through constructor parameters, instance variables are initialized. So this is what the first name, the next, and one more. Clear? Yeah. Then tell me, how do you store one more student data and print it? So again, the same class name student, then s2 different object reference, then new control space. So which is expecting three values: default value null for string, default value 0 for long, and default value null for again string only. But we have to change the values. So first name, something in double quotes, say Ramesh. Then second one, some mobile number. Then third one, some codes, Python. That's it. So here is a comma, not semicolon. This is second object. Then how to print them? Same thing. So we have to copy. Yeah, I have copied. I'll paste there. Instead of S1, S2 I have to use because it's a second student data. That's it. Save. Now let me execute control F11. So here we are seeing first student object details, second student object details also. Yeah, so this is the very purpose of a constructor. That's it. This is what a constructor will do, nothing else. Am I clear? Yes or no? Now, to assign third student data, what to do? Create one more object and print it. To assign 100 students data, what is supposed to do? Create the object for 100 times, or any shortcut is there? No shortcut. We have to create every time object only. Student S1 equals to new student, student S2 equals to new student, student S3 equals to new student, like that. Yeah, that's one thing. So since I want to print 100 students data, then how many times print statements you have to write? For one student data, how many times you are writing print statements? Three times you are writing. For one student, three times. Then for one more student, three more times. Then for 100 students, 300 times you are right. So this object creation, we can't avoid because I have to give each one a data and we have to assign those values to the instance variables through constructor. There is no shortcut for that. But for printing, can we do something? Instead of writing 300 lines of code, if we write 3 lines only, will it be good? Yes or no? Instead of 300 lines, if you write only 3 lines, then it will be good or not? Yes. So therefore, to only avoid the printing for each student 3 times, then we can have a alternate for this. Okay. Instead of printing these things, instead of printing this way, only I'm talking about printing. Instead of printing, what we can do is inside this student class only, after constructor, we can go for a method. We can go for a method. So what is the method is? So method syntax, access modifier, then followed by return type void, because method is not going to return anything. It's only printing, that's all. Then followed by method name. We can take anything as we are already aware of, but I am taking display because I want to display. Yeah, print is a predefined keyword. We can't use a method name as print. So display, What it has to take inputs? No inputs. No inputs. Inside this method body, can we access this name and mobile? Yes or no? System.out.println, they both are in the same class. So we can go for printing this name, and also we can go for printing this mobile. And also according to our discussion, we have course in the Eclipse also. That's it. Now instead of these two lines, what we can write? Can we call this method? This display method is present in which class? Display method is present inside which class? Student class. Then do we have already object for student class called S1? Then how to call this method? S1.display. Yes or no? That's how we call a method, right? Methods concept. How to call a method? Create object, object reference dot method signature, right? So here we have object called S1. Then how to call this method? S1 dot display. Any inputs? Display method is taking any inputs? No, just simply open and close and semicolon. So this will print these two lines. And here also S2 dot display, because this has to display second student data, like that. So for every 3 lines, we can write only once this display method, and the same display method will be called on every object, so that we can avoid some number of lines of code. Now here also I'll do the same process. So what is the first thing to do? In student class, after constructor, so here declare a method, to print, only to print what? Instance variables. Instance variables. It's a commented line, of course, no problem. Then what's the method syntax? Access modifier, return type, any method name of programmer choice. It should not be a predefined keywords. Display, then followed by no inputs. Then the method body system.out.println. So inside this, we can print the first instance variable called name. Then we can also print second instance variable called CISO control space. Yeah. Then here we can print mobile. Then we can also print course. So here we have a method, correct? Now from main method, wherever there is object, with object reference, now can I remove these 3 lines? Required or not required? Not required. But how to print it? S1 dot which method? Display method, that's all. Now here also can we remove these 3 lines? It's not required now. Those lines are not required. Again, S2 dot display. That's all. So like this, create object, print, create object, print it. If it's printing is the requirement, then create and print it. Then to show a different output, quickly I'll go for one more object creation. So here I'll change this to S3, and I'll change this data to something as 3 and some number and some codes, say JavaScript. Now how to print this S3 data? S3 dot display over. Save it, right click, run as Java application. So now, so here we got, okay, if you want to print separately, so I can use one print statement within double quotes. I want to print some line. Yeah, the same line, I'll copy, I'll paste here. Just only to show the output clearly, that's all. It's not mandatory. Now you can see first student data, second student data, third student data. So previously only for printing, how many lines we wrote? 3 lines for each object. Now how many lines we wrote? 1 line only. Display method, right? Only display, display, display. That's all. So that is where it is recommended to go for this method approach, to have a method only for printing instance variables. Yeah. Then from main method, after creating the object, call that method for display purpose. So this is not considerable. This is only for separation. Don't say 2 lines. Only 1 line in place of 3 lines. So like that, previously we used to write for 100 students, 300 lines. Now how many lines you have to write? One line for one student only, no? It means 100 lines only is required if it is for printing. So this is the improvisation of a constructor, and this is the actual purpose of a constructor. Have instance variables and initialize them through constructor. Understood? Yes or no? Any questions? Yeah. Student object creation scanner class is not required. Passing values we can go for constructor. Scanner class. We no need to use scanner class for object creation. Scanner class is not for creating objects. Scanner class is used to read the data from console or keyboard. Yeah. Then if you don't have any questions, then I'll have so many questions. So you have to think and ask. Otherwise, I'll be asking you. Come on. Anybody? Any questions? I have question. So everything is same, but here which value is assigned to what type of variable? These are constructor parameters, right? N, M, C are what? N, M, C are what? Variables, no? Yes or no? What type of variables they are? So here, some of you guys knows that types of variables concept. Am I clear? Types of variables. Please answer me. N and M and C are which type of variables? N, M, C are which type of variables is my question. Yeah, meanwhile, I am just doing something. Don't worry about it. I am giving the hint. Static or instance or local. N, M, C are three variables we can see from this program. So they are what type of variables is my question. Static. Where is the static keyword? Do we use any static keyword? No. Then static is incorrect. What are local variables? Any variable which is there in a method header or inside a method body. So these are called as local variables. Correct? Now constructor is a type of method. Constructor is a type of method or not? In my yesterday's definition. Yes. So therefore, so these are inside a constructor body only. So N, M, C. N, M, C are local variables. And what about this name, mobile, and codes? What type of variables? They are instance variables. So here, instance variables. Correct? Which values, which variable value is assigned to which type of variable? Local variable value assigned to instance. Local variable value assigned to instance. So local variable value assigned to instance. Correct or not? So that's why we are getting the expert output only. Now, can I change the order? Can we change the order? Here, can I change? So my question is, now currently what's the code? Name equals to N, correct? Then can I change N equals to name? So here, can I write N equals to name? Yes or no? Can we write or no? Please answer. Wantedly I have stopped E spelling. You tell me your answer. So here, so I'm writing that. Are we getting any error? No, then it's allowed. Syntactically accepted or not accepted? Are we getting any compilation error? No, therefore it is possible. Then if it is possible, then do we get correct output? No. The answer is no. Okay. Let us check. So I right click. So the same values, object creation and passing values, no errors. Everywhere it's accepted only, but I'll execute my program. What's output we got? For name only we changed, right? So what is output? Null. And here also null. And here also null. So what is the reason? If we are trying to assign this way, previously, so I'm writing only one example so that all your interview questions will be answered. So one is what we are writing. Previously we wrote name equals n. Am I correct or not? What is the reason? What is happening here? The local variable value is assigned to instance variable. Correct or not? So this is the process which is happening. For n, what value we passed for student object? For first student object, what value we passed for n? RAM we have passed, right? Did you remember? RAM. So RAM is a value which is stored in which variable? Name variable. Correct or not? So this is value is RAM. And now this will become the value of name also. If we write this way, then what we are printing? Name, which is what type of variable? Instance variable. That's why we are getting its output as a RAM in the output. Correct or not? That's the first part. Then later what I'm doing? I'm changing this order. I'm using proper color combination so that you can write the notes also. So second what I'm doing? So here we are changing the order. What is second time order? That n equals name we are writing. Correct or not? So here which value we are assigning to which variable? So in this scenario, the instance variable value is assigned to local variable. Then what is the value of this instance variable? Is it that we passing through constructor? No. It is by default. The default value for string is null. The default value for long is 0. And here also null. These are the values. Now which value we are assigning? Null value we are assigning to n. Correct or not? Then what we are printing? What are you printing? Name. Therefore, what's the value in this name? Null itself. That's why in second scenario, we are getting the output as null because of this reason. Everything is correct, but constructor is not, we are not writing the proper code inside in the constructor. What is the proper code? Local variables to be assigned to instance variables, but instance variable to local variables is not a correct approach. Syntactically correct only, but the purpose of constructor is misused there. Understood? Yeah. So if we change the order, what will happen? The constructor parameter values will not be assigned to instance variables is the answer. So I have changed to whatever is the actual one. Yeah. So now we can run to execute the same program. And this time we are going to get the correct output only because it's a proper way of initialized. Am I clear or do you have any questions? Clear? Sure. My next question then. The next question is, can we have the same variable names here also? So here what is the instance variable name? Name itself. But what is the local variable name? N. My question is, can I also use name here? Yeah, guess and tell me. Just guess it for fun. Yes or no, that's it. Can we use local variable names as the instance variable names only? Both are same. Can we have both are same? Yes. Observe. I am changing this. So here also what I should do? Change it. Accepted? Accepted or we are getting an error? Accepted. Then here also I'll change to mobile. Then here also I'll change to mobile only. Then here also I'll change to codes. Then here also give it scores. Done. Now printing is same. Then consider object creation also same. Passing values also same. Nowhere we are getting the error. So therefore it is allowed or not allowed? Yeah, observe. Are we getting any errors? No, therefore it is allowed. Correct or not? Then do we get the output? So what are the first student values that we expect? Lenin and some number and Java, then Ramesh and Python, then Sri and JavaScript. Now observe, I right click, I go for execution of the program. What do you got? Default values you are getting. String default value, long default value, then again string default value for all three objects, we are getting the output. Then how to correct this? Syntactically allowed, but output wise, we are not getting the correct outputs. Then how to correct this one? This is the actual way. We should not go for name and N, mobile and M, course and C. No, you have to go for name and name only, mobile and mobile only, course and course only. This is the correct one. But so still we didn't understood the, I didn't complete the constructor part yet. So there is one last point is there. That's the last question. So to make this happen, so here this name is a local variable or instance variable, and this name is local variable or instance variable. There is a confusion, right? Yes or no? Which value is which local variable is assigned to instance variable or instance variable value is assigned to local variable? There is no clarity here. Correct? That's why JVM is also confused. JVM also confused. Yeah. Then here is one interview question. What is that? When both instance variable and local variables are there, the priority goes to which type of variables? Instance or local? Yeah. When all three types of instance and local variables both are there, always the highest priority goes to some answer I got. Always the highest priority will be given to local variables only. Highest priority will be local only. Yeah. Are you getting me? Yes. So this is the one important interview question. Please remember, I'm not writing anywhere and I'm not going to share the recordings immediately. So please write it. So then what is happening? What is happening here? So what is our intention? Local variables values are initialized to instance variables is what we discussed previously. When we write name equals to n, this is what it is happening. So here the name is different. Therefore, there is no confusion of which is local and which is instant. There is a clarity. Are you getting me? So here is a clarity. But here is any clarity? No clarity. That's why preference goes to which variable? Local variable only. So whenever we are creating the object, so here what value we are passing? Local variable only we are passing. Constructor parameters only we are passing the values from main method, right? Object creation. This RAM will be assigned to this RAM. But these two are what? Now here in this scenario, a local variable value is assigned to local variable only. But what's the purpose of constructor? Initialize instance variables is the purpose of a constructor. But is it happening? No. Local value is assigned to local variable only. So here this is local, this is also local. There is no instance here. So that's why these values are what? Default values, null and 0 and null. That's why we are getting the output as that way. Understood? Are you getting me? Then when both are there, when both local and also instance variables are there, so how to represent instance variables is one more important point. Yeah. So then we have to use one predefined keyword called as this keyword, this dot name, then here also this dot mobile, then this dot course. Yeah. So this is the last point about the constructor. So when this keyword is used, what's the purpose of this keyword? This in Java, it is a predefined keyword. It is a predefined keyword. What is the purpose of it? This keyword purpose is to represent current class, means this class, current class instance members, instance members. This is the purpose of this keyword. Now local variable to, so now this is which variable? This keyword is for which variables? Instance variables. Therefore, local will be assigned to instance. Local will be assigned to instance. So now it is a proper syntax. Now it is a proper syntax. Now when we execute this particular code, do we get the output or not? With values or with the default values? With the constructor parameter values or default values? Constructor parameter values only. Now we are going to get, let me save the code. So from main method, I'll right click, I run the application. So run as, so you can see. So previously when both are there without this keyword, we are getting null, zero, null. But now we are getting the actual values of the instance variables through constructor. So this is the point to remember. And this is the recommended code to write. Don't go for name and n, course and c, and mobile and m. So whatever the variable name here, we have to use the same variable name. But in the constructor body, left hand side instance variables with this keyword. Then right hand side local variables, same name as a constructor parameter variable. Understood? Now the last point is, whenever there is an instance member in a class, even though it is required or not required, but a professional way of writing a code is always use this keyword for instance variables. Even though it is required or not required, it's a professional way to use this keyword for instance members all the time. Instance members means instance variables and also instance methods, both are there. Okay, about methods, nobody, I mean, I didn't discuss with anybody. We'll discuss in OOPS classes only. Then here this name and mobile, which type of variables they are? Are we printing constructor variables or are we printing instance variables? These are which variables? Instance only, no? Therefore, here also it is recommended to use this keyword. Even though without this also we'll get correct output only, but it's professional way to use this keyword to represent current class instance variables. So if you didn't write it, please write about this keyword. This is a predefined keyword. The purpose of this keyword is to represent current class instance variables. And one more point also I discussed, that is the next note, JVM will give highest priority to local variables. Am I clear, guys? Any questions? Yeah, coding classes, any questions means if you say no, it's fine. But if you say no question, then I'll ask you some more questions. Please think and ask. Yeah, of course, what to ask also is one doubt. I know that, but still. Online, any questions, please? Anybody, any questions? No. Done? Yeah. So then the next part about this. The next question, is it mandatory for every class to have a constructor? The next part is it mandatory? Is it mandatory for every Java class to have a constructor? To have a constructor? Yes or no? Yes or no? Is it mandatory for every Java class to have a constructor? No prize for correct answer. Guess it. Yes or no? Hmm? My question. The answer is yes or no. That's all. No is the answer, and no is the wrong answer. Yes, it is mandatory for every Java class to have a constructor. Then we discussed some programs previously. Square class, where is constructor there? Rectangle class, where is constructor there? No, right? Are we writing any code for constructor? From yesterday only we know what is constructor. Before that, we have created some 10 classes for practicing. But are we creating any constructor there? No. But my answer and that my question is contradicting. Yes or no? Is it mandatory? Yes, mandatory. But are we writing? We are not writing. Then who is doing that? Then there is a compiler or JVM. Guess it. Compiler will create a constructor or JVM will create a constructor. When programmer is not writing, one of these two is doing that job. Who is that? Is it JVM or compiler? Guess it. Compiler or JVM? Yeah. So here Java compiler will create a constructor. Yeah. When that is? So yes. So here when there is no constructor, no constructor supplied by a programmer, supplied by programmer. Yeah, it means as a programmer, we are not writing any constructor code. Then only remember this point. Yes, but when there is no constructor supplied by a programmer, then Java compiler, then Java compiler, Java compiler will supply a default constructor, default constructor. So it is Java compiler, and that such type of constructor is called as a default constructor. Please remember. When we don't give only, when we give some constructor, compiler will not do its job. When we don't give, compiler will do its job. Yeah. So then, what is the syntax of the default constructor? So for example, as a programmer, we are writing only one class, public class, some class cricket. That's it. As a programmer, I'm writing this much only. Then what compiler will add to this? Am I writing any constructor code? No, it means programmer is not giving any constructor code. So for this scenario, when this code is compiled, when this code is compiled, what Java compiler will add to this? What compiler will add? So here, when there is no constructor supplied by programmer, then Java compiler will supply a default constructor. So it means in the same class, public class, class name cricket. So for the same class, inside this, what compiler will add? A default constructor. So it is access modifier. What is the constructor syntax? Public then followed by cricket. Then here, no arguments. Then the constructor body, and inside this super in lowercase letters, open and close parenthesis, semicolon. This is the code which will be added by Java compiler. This is called as a default constructor. When programmer is not supplying a constructor, Java compiler will supply a default constructor. Then default constructor syntax is, so here same thing as access modifier, and class name is same as a constructor name, or constructor name is same as a class name. Then any arguments? Any arguments here or no arguments? Any parameters or no parameters? No parameters. That's a property of a default constructor. Default constructor will not have a arguments. So here, so it should be a no arguments constructor. No arguments. Then what is this one? It is called as super function call. Super function call. It is called as, it's not a keyword, it's a function. Parentheses are there, it's a function. Yeah, super function call. This also will be added by Java compiler. So am I clear with this, or do you have any questions? Any questions? Online, any questions? Yeah, so one more important point is there here. I'll go to next slide. So here, let me write the same things bit quickly. Public class, I'll take a class cricket. Then inside this one, program is not writing anything, but when compilation time, Java compiler will add same thing. Public class cricket. Then inside this, what compiler will add? Default constructor. Can you please tell me? What's the compiler's job? Public cricket parenthesis, then body. What is there? Super in lowercase letters only, everything. Then parenthesis, semicolon. Yeah. Yeah. Can we see that? This is invisible for us. Programmer cannot see this. Okay. Then here, based on the same default only, I'm asking one simple question. One more simple question to convey you one point. So here I'm taking the class T. That's it. This is as a programmer. As a programmer, I'm not adding anything. Then when this code is compiled, then what Java compiler will add? Java C means Java compiler. Okay. So first let me have the same class, that is class T, and inside this, tell me now, what's the compiler's code? Public, tell me. Constructor syntax, I'm asking. Please be loud and clear. Public, then same name as a class name T, next. Empty parenthesis, then floor brackets, inside this one, super in lowercase letters, parenthesis, and also semicolon. Yeah. Why default constructor is added? So without a default constructor, then there is no Java program will be executed. Okay, it's a very big story. So till inheritance, every time I am going to use constructor. So once we complete inheritance concept, you will get the answer for this question. At this point of time, it is challenging for me to convince you. Why? There is a concept called as constructor chain. That is to be understood through inheritance concept. There you will get the answer for this question, Prashant. It's a good question. But at this point of time, still we didn't complete the entire construct story. So only, so what is the main purpose of it? What is the syntax of it? That's all. Okay. Remember this question. If you don't remember also, still I'll take the chance from my end and I'll convince you. Yeah. So now my question is this is correct or wrong? First one is correct, I'm saying. This is correct only. This entire code is correct only. My question is this is correct or wrong? Yeah. Correct. So here there is one important rule. There is one important rule. This is wrong. Okay. What is the important point is, if you just go for yesterday's class somewhere, whenever I write the syntax, yeah. So in place of access modifier of a constructor syntax, what is allowed? Public, protected, default or private. It is for a compiler or it's for a programmer? It is whenever programmer is adding that, correct or not? But here, who is doing this job in this current slide? Programmer or compiler? It is compiler is doing. So therefore, there is a one more important point to remember. Most of the people are not aware of this. They'll argue with us unnecessarily. Okay, I'll tell you how to define them also. So here, what is the access modifier of this class? Cricket class access modifier is what? Therefore, this is what type of constructor? Default constructor. Correct or not? Compiler is applying that. That's called as a default constructor. What is the access modifier of default constructor? The access modifier of default constructor must be same as a class only, not public. Same as a class. Not for programmer defined constructor, but for default constructor, this rule is applied. So here, what is the access modifier of class? Default, right? Then what is the access modifier of constructor? Public. Is it matching to the constructor of access modifier of class? The constructor and the class have the same access modifier or different? Different. So that is incorrect for default constructor. This should not be there. Only T, that's all. Default is if you don't write anything, it will become default. If you don't write anything, it will become default. Yeah. So then only the constructor name is same as the class name. Then parenthesis has no arguments. Then followed by super call. But class access modifier, default constructor access modifier must be same. Yeah. So if somebody asks you, how do you know this? If somebody is asking you, how do you know this? Then simply do one thing. What's the normal approach? For any Java application, first step what will do? Will compile. Correct? Second step what will do? Will run. First we'll compile a program. Then second step is we'll run the program. Yeah. Now, nobody will ask you and you will also not don't do it. But still, if somebody is arguing you, then you can answer this way. That once we compile a Java application, there is a process. There is a process. After compilation, do decompilation. There is a process. Decompilation is there. Yeah. Once we do decompilation process, we can see what compiler is also adding. Yeah. So this is where you'll get the answer for that. Yeah. We did it. So I have a good team in my previous organization where we developers or we trainers used to discuss so much. Why this will happen? Each and every, like yesterday I said, no, one thing. Why chicken 65 is called as chicken 65 only. Such type of research we will do it. Okay. So that is where we argued and we have one mentor for us. Okay. He said no. He said no. Here also he says public. But we read in somewhere during our research is nothing but it is not public. It is same as a class. Same access modifier as class. Then he asked me, so can you show me Java official website, oracle.com? Or can you show me some official Java websites? Don't say some Google information. I can also put some information in the Google. It doesn't mean is it right? No, Java people has to give some authentication. There is no such of evidence. Nowhere Java people says that don't do this much of research, just use the Java language, write your applications while you're researching about Java. So that is the answer that we'll get it. Then what is the process after doing some other research and all? We understood that after decompilation, we got the proof. Then we have proved to this our mentor. Then he agreed. Yeah, the known people also will not agree anything so simply. So there is no official documentation for such type of some things. Yeah. So so it comes with some what's the experience only. So that is where we can prove this one. And this is the point to remember. I said most of the interviewers also will not know this point. So they'll say, if you say public, they'll accept it. Yeah, but actually no, and remember this point. Yeah. So let me write from my end. The point is, so with these two examples, the conclusion or the important note to remember. the AM access modifier of default constructor. Default constructor is same as access modifier of class. This is the conclusion. So that's why here, even here, I have striked off this public to remember the same point. So here it is default, but it's not default, then it's wrong. And very, very clearly, this rule is only for default constructor, not for programmer defined constructor. Understand the points carefully. Clear? Then one more question. Public class cricket. Same thing. Inside this class, as a programmer, I am writing one constructor. So access modifier, public, then constructor name, same as class name, then here parenthesis, then semicolon. Is it correct? Is this is correct or wrong? Is it correct or wrong? Wrong. Any reason? Yeah. Is it correct or wrong? Is my question. It's absolutely correct. Because constructor name is what? Same as class name. Correct? And then public, it's a default constructor or programmer defined constructor. I am writing the code. Therefore, it's a programmer's code or programmer's constructor. Then can I use any access modifier or not? Yes. Yeah. My actual question is, yeah, super will be added automatically. So here, my question is it a default constructor or not? Is this constructor is a default constructor or not? Is this one is a default constructor? Is my question. What's your answer? Yes or no? No, because it's a programmer is giving. Right? Who will supply default constructor? Compiler will supply. But here compiler is doing or I am doing? As a person, we are doing. As a developer, we are doing. Correct? Programmer is doing. So therefore, this is not a is it a default constructor? The answer is no. The answer is no. Okay. So why I am saying this? Yes, it looks like exactly default constructor. Correct or not? But since programmer is supplying, so we cannot call a programmer is supplied constructor, even though it is same syntax as a default constructor. It is a programmer supplied constructor. This we can call it as no arguments constructor. No arguments constructor. Any arguments are there? That's why no arguments constructor. Default constructor also, what type of constructor? No arguments constructor only. Yeah, so get this point very clearly. Default constructor is no argument constructor. But every no argument constructor is default constructor. Reverse is no. So that's what I'm asking the question in reverse way. Am I confusing you unnecessarily? Or am I giving clarity? Sure? Sure. Yeah. Sometimes there is a problem also. Yeah. So, okay, let me be clear and let me be careful from my end also. I'll write those notes. Default constructor is no arguments constructor, no args constructor. But the second note, programmer supplied constructor, programmer supplied no args constructor is default or not default? Is default or is not default? When we supply, is it default or not default? It's not a default constructor. Is not. Yeah, so then today for you to practice, just repeat the same concept. So I'll write clearly the practice thing. The step 1, create employee class with instance variables. What are the instance variables? E-name, employee name, employee name. I'm following camel naming standards. Then EID, employee ID, then comma, E-salary, employee salary, three instance variables with a class. Then what step 2? Step 2, design a constructor. Design a constructor. What's the purpose of constructor? And initialize initialize instance variables. Then step 3, declare a display method. You can take anything of your choice also. Declare a display method to print what? To print instance variables. We can't access local variables outside the method body or outside the constructor body. Then step 4. What step 4? Then take test class or any class. Test class with main method. Then step 5, create employee objects, create 3 employee objects and print the data. So this is one practice question on constructor. So please do write handwritten code, then Eclipse execution. So create cube. It's not create cube, it's create 3. Create 3 employee objects data. Yeah, like we did student 1, student 2, student 3. Same way, employee 1, employee 2, employee 3.